Salut mon pote, comment ça va? Aujourd'hui, on continue à voir ensemble la prononciation et la phonétique du français, ok? En regardant une nouvelle voyelle à deux timbres. Aujourd'hui, on va parler des sons O et O. O, O. This will be very similar to the previous one, ok? La dernière fois, on avait parlé de E et E. Ça, c'était la dernière fois. Aujourd'hui, on va voir O et O. The logic will be very similar, although a bit different, okay? But I would appreciate if you watch the previous video first, the video about E and E, so it will be easier for you to understand the logic, and I can go a bit faster on this and not repeat everything the same as last time, okay? C'est parti. On va commencer par regarder quelques mots ensemble. Tu me dis si tu peux entendre la différence, ok? For now, just tell me if you can hear the difference in the sound. L'eau, l'or. Pot, pomme. Mot, mort. So, obviously, here you have r, m, r that are different from the sound above, but I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about the voyelle sound. Hein. L'eau, l'or. Pot, pomme. Mot, mort. So this is the difference of sound we're going to talk about today. Starting with the first sound, which is very easy, I think. It's just the sound O. That's it. I think almost every language in the world probably have this one. It's very easy. I don't think I have to explain to you how to make the sound O. Oh, sorry, I have planned to put my face here. Okay. Donc, O. O. If you just make the sound at home, your mouth should look like mine, like this. O. O. What will be interesting today is not how to shape your mouth to make the sound, but it's more how to change the shape to go from one sound to the other. Mais bon, ici on a le son O comme dans l'eau, la peau, un mot ou bien mon nom, Nicolas. Ok? Nicolas. O. Now, what's interesting is just like last time, same principle. If you want to go from this sound right here to this one, the only thing you have to do is that you open your mouth a bit wider, a bit more big. That's it, like this. O, 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 O. That's it. This one is the sound O, comme dans mort, O, pomme, O, l'or, O, homme, O. My lips doesn't change, my tongue doesn't change. The only thing that changes is that my mouth opens a bit bigger. O, 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 O. That's it. So easy, right? So if you can make the O sound, which I'm sure you can, then you can make the O sound. No excuse. It's not a difficult one at all. Okay? What's difficult is to make the difference between them, but to make the sound yourself is not difficult. Okay? Donc, ici on a les sons l'eau, pot, mot, et ici les sons mort, pomme, l'or. So, do you notice a difference between all the examples that are here and all the examples that are here? So if you've seen the previous chapter about the sound E and E, you probably know what's coming. I will go a bit faster about this time. Basically, what we have here on the left is what we call des sons ouverts, so like open sounds, and here des sons fermés, so closed sound. What it means is that here, when you see po, you have the consonant p, p, and then the vowel sound o. And then that's it. It's as if, since here there's nothing, it's an open sound. Same here. you have the letter T, but you don't hear it, so I don't care about it. You have O, mo. So it's a open sound because after the sound O, there's nothing, okay? It's like it's open. Same here. Lo, there's nothing. But in all the examples here, after the sound O, you have the sound of a consonant, like mort. After O, you have R, mort. So it's as if the sound O is closed by the consonant R. Ici, on a pomme, pomme. It's as if the sound O is closed by the consonant pomme. Et ici, l'or is just like mort. Okay? So this is what we have, open sound and closed sound. And the idea is that most of the time, for the open sound, we will use the sound O, and for the closed sound, we will use the sound O. Why? Let's say for today, because it sounds better, it sounds easier. Regarde, par exemple, ça c'est O, et ça serait, if I didn't change the pronunciation of O, then I would pronounce this one or, or. But try to pronounce or and then or, just like we practice. O, or, or. I'm sure you can get a sense, maybe, that or is somehow easier to pronounce than or. Or feels more like an effort to pronounce, actually, you know. Or, it sounds a bit difficult, but or is very smooth. Same here. Ro, no issue. Rome, a bit difficult. Rome, very easy, right? So if I didn't change the pronunciation of the O, this one would be pronounced Rome. But Rome is a bit hard to pronounce. But if I change the O to O, then it sounds like Rome, and it's easier. Okay? Très bien. So for now, it's exactly the same principle as what we have seen last time, but there's a bit of a difference. En vrai, ça ne marche pas toujours. Il y a beaucoup de contre-exemples. For this one, way more than last time, there are a lot of counter-examples, a lot of cases in which it doesn't work. For example, in French, we have the word saute, which means to jump, et saute, which means like a fool. Okay? Donc, saute, saute, they both exist, they have different spellings and different meanings. Okay? Same for this one. Paume, la paume de la main, prononcé paume, is the palm of the hand, whereas pomme is an apple. Okay? It reminds me of something actually. Wait, I will try to look for it. Okay, never mind. I tried to find it, but I didn't find it. When I was a kid, I mean, there was a comic book where at some point a character was coming home from work and he was sweating a lot. I don't remember why, maybe it was very hot. And so you could see on the drawing, he had like drops of sweat coming out of his hands because he was sweating a lot. And he put his hand on top of a glass of water. So the sweat, I mean, it's a bit disgusting, but it was like a comic book, okay? So the drops of sweat, of perspiration goes into the glass. And he calls someone and he says like, come, il y a du jus de pomme. It's like, there's pomme juice, which is supposed to be fun because it sounds really close to jus de pomme, which is apple juice, but it's a play on the pronunciation, pomme, pomme. I wish I could find the drawing and you could see easily, but I couldn't find it. Never mind. So fair enough, you know, both sound exist, so there are a lot of contre-exemples in French, but the principle is still here, okay? The principle is the same. And there is one more thing that makes it a bit tricky, is that depending on where people come from in France, not everyone pronounces the same. For example, I think in some provinces in the south of France, some people, you cannot hear the difference between pomme and pomme. They will say pomme for both, and you cannot hear the difference anymore. Some people in France pronounce hôtel. Some pronounce more like hotel. Okay. For me, for example, I come from the north of France originally. I mean, I grew up here, so my pronunciation is typical from the north. So I pronounce hotel, but it's not the case for everyone. The cultural difference, we will go back to this topic when we talk about one of the most tricky sounds, which is E and E. But pas pour aujourd'hui, not for today. Ok? On peut faire deux petits exercices. Ok? Je vais lire la phrase ici. I will read the sentence here. And I want you to write down here the words in which you hear the sound O, and here the words in which you hear the sound O. Okay? So it's really a listening exercise. You can read it as well, but like I told you, it's not helpful 100% of the time, so you still have to listen to it. Ok? C'est parti. L'homme de l'hôpital mange une pomme en or et boit de la mauvaise eau. You can also, I also want you to practice repeating the sentence after me. But we do this later. First, just identify the sounds. L'homme de l'hôpital mange une pomme en or et boit de la mauvaise eau. C'est bon? Alors on a hôpital, eau, mauvaise, eau et eau, eau. Homme, o, pomme, o, or, o. So now I want you to practice repeating the sentence after me, focusing on the sound o and o. L'homme de l'hôpital mange une pomme en or et boit de la mauvaise eau. And by the way, if you pronounce it at normal speed, mauvaise and eau will merge together. Technically, it's not a liaison, but you can think about it as a liaison. It's the same principle. Normal speed this time. L'homme de l'hôpital mange une pomme en or et boit de la mauvaise eau. Très bien. Deuxième exemple. Same exercise. Thibaut et Gauthier mangent un homard très fort en regardant leur horloge. Thibaut et Gauthier mangent un homard très fort en regardant leur horloge. C'est bon? Alors on a Thibaut, O, Gauthier, O, homard, O. Fort, O, horloge, O, O. You can practice repeating after me. Thibaut et Gauthier mangent un homard très fort en regardant leur horloge. Normal speed this time. Thibaut et Gauthier mangent un homard très fort en regardant leur horloge. Can you notice something? When you look at this here, and you look at this here, can you notice something happening? Maybe, maybe not. Dernier exemple, last example, and you will understand what I am waiting for you to notice. Last one. Cet hôtel est très beau. C'est minimum 200 € pour dormir. Au revoir. Cet hôtel est très beau. C'est minimum 200 € pour dormir. Au revoir. C'est bon? Alors, on a hôtel, O, beau, O, euro, O, et O, O. Et ici, on a dormir, O, et minimum, O. qu'est-ce que tu remarques? Do you notice something? Maybe you can notice that almost always, like 99% of the time, the sound O is written with the letter O, and that's it. O, O, O. O, O, O. O, and here we have a U. Well, actually, these examples here, they show you all the ways to write this sound, okay? But actually, U here in minimum doesn't count because doesn't count. Of course it counts, but like technically, minimum is not a French word. It's not like the root is not French, on the contrary to all the other words. So if you only take French words that have roots in French, then the sound O is always written with the letter O, okay? And in some cases, in a few words, you can see it written with a U like this, okay? Et pour le son O, you can have O, AU, EAU, or O with an accent on top, okay? Très bien. Last exercise, you already know what we're going to do. So this exercise, I am going to read you 3 sentences. I want you to listen to the sentences and to count how many times you hear the sound O and the sound O. And then you write in the tab how many times you heard it. For example, if I say de l'eau en or, de l'eau en or, 1, 1, 1, 1, you can hear each sound once, so you can write 1, 1. Ok? Vas-y. C'est bon? Phrase numéro 1. Dans les eaux profondes de l'océan vivent un orque et un dauphin. Dans les eaux profondes de l'océan vivent un orque et un dauphin. Phrase numéro 2. Il y a un rat mort bloqué dans la porte du frigo, entre les pommes, le porc et les poireaux. Il y a un rat mort bloqué dans la porte du frigo, entre les pommes, le porc et les poireaux. Phrase numéro 3. Rodolfo écoute un programme important à la radio. Rodolfo écoute un programme important à la radio. Ça va? Before showing you the answer, here you have the sentence, if it can be helpful for you. Dans les eaux profondes de l'océan vivent un orque et un dauphin. Il y a un rat mort bloqué dans la porte du frigo, entre les pommes, le porc et les poireaux. Rodolfo écoute un programme important à la radio. Ça va? Si ça va, on regarde la solution. Alors, on a donc le son O. Dans les eaux profondes de l'océan vivent un orque et un dauphin. Donc on a eau profonde, océan, dauphin. 4. Dans les eaux profondes de l'océan vivent un orque, O, et un dauphin. 1. Il y a un rat mort bloqué dans la porte du frigo, entre les pommes, le porc et les poireaux. 3. Il y a un rat mort bloqué dans la porte du frigo, entre les pommes, le porc et les poireaux. 4. Rodolfo écoute un programme important à la radio. 4. Rodolfo écoute un programme important à la radio. 2. Très bien. Ça va? Félicitations. On peut s'arrêter là pour aujourd'hui. Let's stop here for today. So we still have two topics to review for vowels. Semi-voyel, which will be very easy. I think will be a short one. It's a bit uncommon to talk about this. So, or maybe we see this in the future with the consonant. The big topic that's remaining is this one. The difference between E and E. And this one is a big topic. I mean, I don't know if it's long, but it's just troublesome to talk about it. But let's do this together and we'll be fine. Ok? C'est tout pour aujourd'hui. Félicitations. Bon courage, mon pote, pour tes études. Travaille bien, étudie bien, prends soin de toi et à bientôt. Bisous.